Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome to Main Event Boxing Talk. I've got Tom with me here. Hello, Tom. How
Hello,
are you?
Nathan. Hi.
Are you
Pretty
okay?
good. How are you?
I'm
Yeah,
good.
I'm
Right,
fine.
good. Let's go straight into it then. We haven't got a lot of time. Number one, Chantel Cameron is elevated to the WBC Super Lightweight Champion because Katie Taylor's vacated it. She's taken some time away from boxing for a few months. What do you
Okay.
make of that?
Well, I make of it that Katie's been in several wars already. So
Yeah,
I think she needs to take some time off and relax and see if she wants to come back or not. I mean, those wars with Emmanuel Serrano were just brutal.
yeah,
So,
they were.
and she's starting to put some mileage on her. So I think it's a good idea. And I don't know. We'll see if she the other gal Cameron, right? If she
Yeah.
could hold on to the title, she should be able to. She's pretty good.
Yeah, the problem is she was the mandatory for the WBC belt against Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor, obviously, I don't blame her for not taking that rematch. She doesn't have to, she's proved that she's better. She beat her in the second fight, in the rematch. There's nothing really more to calculate on it. I don't think.
No,
You know,
there's nothing else at this point for
right?
her.
We will, we will move on to our next
Great.
subject. Let me get my piece of paper. Uh, James De Gea will be making his bare knuckle debut on Saturday, 8 years after retiring from boxing.
Wow.
Uh,
Wow. That's intense.
I think it's a bit silly, to be honest, after 8 years away. I mean, he was a two-time super middleweight champion. I don't think there's anything else left to prove, to be honest.
No. Well, I mean, 8 years is a long layoff. Long.
I, that it is, yeah.
Maybe because I think the timing of the belts are going to become free soon. I don't think that Crawford's going to keep any of those belts.
No, we're
So,
we're not talking about that. We're talking about the bare knuckle thing.
oh, bare
So
knuckle. Oh, okay.
James De
Well,
Gea's going to be
that makes
fighting bare
sense.
knuckle.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
think it's a dumb move. Yeah.
go ahead. Say
You
what you
don't
wanted to say. I'm sorry.
you don't get a lot of money for those sort of fights. Bare knuckle, he might get 30 grand, but it's not worth it for what the purses he had in boxing. I don't understand this obsession with bare knuckle. It don't make any sense to me.
Well, if you look at what's going on here, I mean, look at Lucas Brown what was it, last
Oh
week or 2 weeks ago?
yeah, he won
You
his bare
know,
knuckle day, but it just
right.
proves that the talent isn't there because he's a 46-year-old, 45-year-old man who's been finished for about 6, 7 years, and he can walk in there and knock out a guy like that who was one of the top bare knuckle. To me, it doesn't say much about the skill level. I mean, that's why Austin Trout won a belt in the BKFC. But I think this is the James DeGale's fighting at lower level than BKFC. I'm not sure if that's what he's fighting in. I didn't do my
Right.
research, but let me just quickly double check what he's doing. James DeGale. Actually, you know what? I don't even need to check that. It's not that big a deal, is it? That fight, really, what he's doing.
Well,
Right. Well,
let's take let's take a look at just this whole scene here, where guys that are at the end of their career go into it, because, like I said the last time, a lot of these guys can't really make money once boxing's over. That's all they know how to do. In 8 years, who knows what happened to him in terms of business, whether he's been
he's a
doing it
millionaire.
himself.
He's a millionaire. Let's put it that way. He doesn't need to box. I know he was a millionaire from the purses he made. If you total it all together, and if he's been good with investments, he was never poor with his investments. James DeGale's a pretty clever guy, but if he'd wanted to fight, fight Jake Paul or something like that. Get all your money in one fight. I mean, that makes more sense to me.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you, Nathan. I agree with that. Yeah.
Right, we're going to move on to our next topic, which is Fraser Clark will be fighting Jamie TKV for the vacant British title on October the 25th. this is a good fight for Fraser Clark because I think he'll walk straight through TKV. I don't rate TKV that highly. He's got good power, but I don't know. He took David. He nearly beat David Adelaide, but David Adelaide obviously knocked him out on the break.
Right.
When the
I
referee
remember
stopped.
that. Yeah. Wow.
But I think Fraser Clark, he's 34. He's still a fairly decent guy. He's only lost to Fraser Clark. He lost in one round, but to me, that you can't play too much into it. I think he wins this fight either on points or a late stoppage. The British heavyweight scene is pretty good because Fraser Clark is a European level fighter, when you look at it properly.
Well, I think you have, over there, it's become a hotbed for heavyweights because of the level of like AJ and Tyson Fury and some of the other guys that have been mixing it up. It's become a very interesting place for heavyweight fights, which is good.
Yeah.
And, I mean, AJ and Fury ruled for a long time.
But if you look at the British scene 20 years ago, we didn't have the talent we have now 20 years ago in this country. You had Danny Williams and all that. But those guys don't compare to what we have now. You've got guys, probably 3 or 4 heavyweights in the British scene that could easily make the top 20 in the world, and that never used to be that way. We did probably in the 70s and 80s, but not recently.
Right. I think
crazy.
the last one before that was Lennox Lewis was fighting out of England, right? And so was Frank Bruno. So
and then you had a few other people. You had Gary Mason. You had a few others, but I don't need to. We know the boxing fans know who they are.
Right.
So I think whoever wins this fight should go on to European level. TKV is not that talented, in my opinion. He's got some ability, but he'll never be a European champion. This is about his level. He's a proper British level.
Right.
I'm sorry, I just got to answer this phone. Give me 1 second, and we'll move on to the next thing.
Sure.
Hello, Cummins Gatehouse. Yeah, I'm a bit busy at the minute. Can I ring you back in about an hour? So I'm watching it. Okay. Cheers, mate. Bye. Bye. Yeah, we can carry on. So the next thing we're going to talk about is Gerald Washington gets wiped out in 2 rounds by the Nigerian heavyweight Kingsley Ibe. Washington's 44 now, so this guy's 31. I'm surprised Gerald Washington's still fighting.
Me too. He's been around a while.
A long time.
Didn't he fight Klitschko?
No. He fought. Oh God, I can't remember. He fought Joseph Ngannou. He fought Amir Mansour. He fought Derek Chisora. He's fought, Charles Martin.
Yeah, those are the guys I remember. Okay, now I knew he'd ring a bell, but he's been around a long time. 44, I don't know.
I mean, he won his last fight, he's won his last 2 fights, but they were in Mexico. He's half Mexican. I don't know if you're aware of that, Gerald Washington.
No.
He's actually half Mexican.
Well, God bless him at 44. If he probably needs some money, and
he's in great shape. I'll give that. He's always in good shape, But he was never that talented to begin with,
He's going up now. This guy he's fighting, give me a little information on him.
He's a Nigerian heavyweight. He was a solid heavyweight, but he's nothing special. He's lost 4 or 5 fights. So in his prime, Washington would have beaten this guy. Let's put it that way. He's nothing special. He's probably about British level. He's below Derek Chisora level.
Well, it's going to depend on who wants it the most here.
The problem with Gerald Washington is that he's so washed up now that he'd struggle to even beat anybody like a Dave Allen at British level. To be honest, he's so washed. Right.
Well, Maybe it'll be interesting. I don't know the other fighter, but it seems like Washington has more talent and experience from what you're telling me.
Yeah, he does. Right, let's move on to the next one. Keyshawn Davis has been installed as the number one challenger at 140 pounds for the WBO title. Obviously, he was stripped of his belt in June for not making weight, and then as he's been stripped, this is so bad, isn't it? Obviously, the current WBO champions, when they go up a weight, are normally installed as the number one challenger, which is correct as it states in the WBO rules. But the fact that he didn't make weight in his last fight and got stripped, to me, that's not a good look.
Well, wasn't it always? I mean, it was at his hometown, and people paid to come and see him, and then there was a
Yeah.
fight afterwards. That was
The
so
fight got
immature.
cancelled. His fight got
Yeah.
cancelled.
Yeah, his immaturity level, like really. I mean, what's he going to do? He seemed like he just blew it. The last time he could have fought.
It'll wreck his career the way he's carrying on.
Yeah.
But I still think he'll, I don't know. He, like I say, he was the world champion pretty quickly.
Do you think he could beat Teofimo?
No, not at all.
Oh, it's weird, man.
I don't know.
Well, because Teofimo's the champion in that division, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
But
Well,
Teofimo is an elite level fighter. He really is.
He is, but he's not been as active as he should be.
I think he's easily the best in that division. When obviously Devin Haney is moved up a weight to fight Norman, who I think Norman is the dark horse of the division, a guy that could actually take over if people overlook him. He's got that sort of talent level. But Keyshawn Davis is also a good guy, a good fighter. I think he could win the title at that weight, just not against Lopez.
Right.
I mean, he's only had 14 pro fights, Tom.
Yeah, he has a lot of talent. There's no doubt about that. But his maturity level is not good.
If you compare him, Devin Haney wasn't a world champion after 13 fights. Devin Haney came at the hard way. Whereas I think Keyshawn Davis's route to a world title, it was kind of more carefully chosen. He had a carefully chosen path.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's never good to have that.
You and I both know that it's not only physical and talent, but it's also mental.
Yeah. I think he will win a world title again, but he hasn't got the talent of the guy we're talking about next. Right, let's move on. Jaren Ennis on October 11th makes his debut at 154 against a guy called Usima Lima. I've never heard of this guy before.
Wait a minute. Are you talking about at 160 or 154?
154.
Oh, okay. I thought he was going up to middleweight.
No, 154.
Okay.
Going up to. Obviously, he's a former IBF and WBA champion at 140.
147.
Sorry,
yeah.
147. Sorry.
Welterweight, right?
So this is just a showcase for us. It's Lima. I've looked at his record. He's got no real good fighters on his record. It's just an almost sort of journeyman sort of guy,
Well, I think that's a good idea because he wants to see how he feels at 154, right? So it's better for him just to have a test.
But it reminds me when Devin Alexander went to 147, he fought Maidana on his debut and beat Maidana, before he got bad. Right, so I expect Ennis to win this fight, and I expect him to pick up a few belts at 154 as well. And
I agree,
as long as he stays away from Fundora, who's on a hot streak.
Not only Fundora, but there's that other guy. He's
Natalia.
Muslim. That would be a good fight. Yeah.
I think they'll keep him away from those guys. They just want to get him some more belts. He's got the talent to dominate. I think he has the same sort of talent level as Crawford, potentially.
Potentially,
That's what he's been billed as. That's what they're building him up to be, the next Crawford.
Right. Didn't he? He wanted to fight Crawford at one point, didn't he?
Yeah, but Crawford, it wasn't worth it for Crawford. He's a lot older. I mean, this guy Jerome Ennis is only, what, 25, 26? You know, he's young
Yeah.
in the game. You know,
One of the things that he has to watch out for, he was able to take those punches from welterweights.
Yeah.
But he takes punches. He takes sometimes clean right hands. I've seen him get caught.
At 154, if he does that with the top guys, he'll lose.
Well, he'll get hurt. You know, we'll see how his chin holds up. But I agree with you. I expect he'll win something up there. I think he's putting himself in a position if Bud comes down to 160, he could come up to 160. Maybe they could make some money if the Turk wants to put up money for that. You know,
even if he doesn't fight Crawford, he'll make money. He's a future star in the making. We know that much, you know.
Well, I don't think he's I think he's already a star, but will he be able to make the money? Is what we're talking about. You know.
I think he will. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Let's move on to this embarrassing press conference. Did you see? I saw a bit of the Gervonta Davis Jake Paul podcast press conference. It was awful.
Oh God. Oh God.
Right. So Gervonta Davis has said, "Fuck the fans. Boxing's dead. Real boxing's dead." He said.
Well, no, he's dead because he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. Because what he really needed to do to salvage himself was a rematch with Roach, and he's avoiding that.
I don't blame him. Roach, yeah, but it's all wrong for him. If this fight style is wrong for you, move on and go somewhere else. Don't do what Apollo Creed did. You know.
Yeah.
do you remember the film where his coach said, "He's all wrong for us, baby. Stay away from him."
Right, for sure, man.
I think Mayweather had said, "You're beating him, or you got to draw with him. Move on."
Yeah. Well, is Mayweather still his manager?
He still has something to do with him. I don't know too much. I think he's still. I don't really know. I don't know. But it was embarrassing because Jake Paul went up to him, went down on his knees, was taking the piss out of him. It was embarrassing. This fight, I can't take it seriously. I'm not going to watch it because it's a dumb fight.
It's a circus show, is what it is.
It's 2 minute, 3 minute. It's 2 minute rounds, right? And I don't care who wins it because it doesn't go on anyone's record. It's an exhibition.
It doesn't mean anything. I mean, what does it mean?
Nothing. It's just a big paycheck for Davis, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's an exhibition if you're looking at it that way. If it doesn't go on anybody's record, it's just an exhibition. It's not a sanctioned bout.
I mean, Jake Paul, if he wants a title shot, he's going about it the wrong way. You know, fight guys like he was fighting Jesus Chavez Jr. That was a good fight. You know, those sort of fights are good for him. Former world champions who are middleweight, super middleweight. That's good for him, you know. Not fighting guys who are.
Chavez, you know, woke up towards the end of the fight, which was a little bit too late, right?
It doesn't matter. He's fighting guys that are former world champions and who are still active. That's better than fighting 60-year-old men like Mike Tyson, isn't it?
Yep, much better.
Right, let's move on. David Benavidez has rejected a return to 168. He said he's not going to bother going down to fight Crawford. I don't think he could get down to 168 if he tried anyway.
No, it would drain him severely.
And it wouldn't be to his advantage. Then he would lose because he's so weight drained. Yeah. But
it doesn't make sense.
He's chasing Bivol and Beterbiev. You know, he's chasing the bigger guys. You know, the bigger money and guys his own size. Because if he fights Crawford and loses, it's not going to look too good, is it? So I can understand why he's not doing it. You know.
It's just, you know, it would really not be physically good for him, period. He's growing out of the division. I mean, what's the point? He can make money with either of those guys, the winner of their rematch. So
definitely, yeah.
And that'll give him credibility as a champion.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
right,
why should he fool around? You know, Canelo jerked him around too long anyway.
Right, let's move on because we haven't got too much longer left. Derek Chisora will be having his last fight on the 2nd of December. His opponent will be announced soon.
Is this the second or third last fight?
Apparently, this is the final, the last dance. Apparently.
Oh well, we'll see. If he looks really good, he may just fight again. You know him.
I hope not. I hope this is his last one. I'd like him to fight someone like a Dave Allen kind of fighter or Johnny Fisher kind of level. Nobody who's not, nobody who's a top 10 or top 20, or
Right.
someone like, or even Pulev. Pulev would be a perfect fight for him because Chisora is fairly high in the rankings. He could be a voluntary defence for Pulev, and he's also got a good record against Pulev. They're one each. They could have a trilogy. That would be a good fight, wouldn't it? Him and Pulev.
It would be.
For a WBA regular title. Plus, he gets a final world title shot, and if he wins, he retires a world champion. For me, that is the only fight he should really take. That or a lower level, because obviously Pulev's not what he was, is he? He's still a good fighter, but he's just not really. He's not really a world champion level.
No, not against the top guys. No,
but
what I find that continue.
Yeah, carry on. What you're going to say?
No, you continue. Go ahead.
I think him fighting for the WBA regular belt, it's a world title. Why not? It'd be an easy fight to make. And Pulev's not fought anybody for about 6 months. So why not?
Right? Wasn't he supposed to? He was going to fight. What's his name next? Right? Oh no, they didn't make that fight.
No, because they were meant to make the Wardley fight, but Wardley's decided to fight Parker instead.
Right. Okay. Well, I was going to say that Jalolov is staying like inside Russia. He's not coming out of Russia to fight anywhere. And he's got the IBO. He's fighting under the IBO or something, International Boxing Organization.
I believe. That Jalolov would be too good for Chisora at this stage, even though he's fought nobody at professional level. He's a 2-time gold medalist. I think he'd be too tricky for Chisora, and plus he's not a big enough name, so people don't know who Jalolov is. They just see him as another. He's from Uzbekistan. They just see him as another Eastern European, Central Asian sort of fighter. No, he hasn't got any name value, but even though he has the talent, which is just unfortunate.
Yeah.
But I could see him. I think Dave Allen or someone like Johnny Fisher should get the call, or somebody like that sort of level.
Right.
Right.
But anyway, I'd like to see him in the mix after this too.
Yeah. Right. We'll move on.
Sure.
Weekend cards. Stanios is fighting some guy called Mackenzie in a 10-round fight. This guy is fighting. Is ranked about 200 in BoxRec, so it's an easy fight. Comeback fight for Stanios. Obviously, after he lost his WBA regular belt. So yeah, this is, and then we'll move on to our next fight, which is in Nigeria. This is a 10-round cruiserweight fight. This is Marcus Brown, comes out of exile to fight Richard Glatton. Richard Glatton is a guy that lost to Chris Billum-Smith, unanimous decision about 3 months ago. So this is a fairly even fight. But I'd pick Glatton to win because I think he's been more active. And he doesn't have as many. Marcus Brown has a lot of miles on the clock, as we know.
Right. Well, it's interesting. The whole scene. A lot of these guys are just filling up cards, where normally a lot of these guys would have been retired, but because we have so many different organizations, they're getting fights.
Yeah, Marcus Brown is obviously a former interim champion. He has some name value. Richard Glatton has a little bit of name value. They're both top 10, top 20 cruiserweights.
Right.
And then we've got Dan Aziz, who's a former European champion of Nigerian descent cruiserweight. This is at 6 rounds. He's fighting a guy called Ado Sun, who is ranked 200 in BoxRec. Dan Aziz is about 40. So this is a very low-level fight for Dan Aziz. It's a fight he'll win very comfortably. And that's in Nigeria. Marcus Brown, which I've never known cards to be in Nigeria of name fighters.
Well, right. They must be paying him for that. That's good.
Oh, yeah. Right, in number 11, Joe Kawasaki has been inducted into the British Boxing Hall of Fame. I didn't even know there was a British Boxing Hall of Fame, but he's been named as the greatest fighter in British boxing history, which I agree with. Yeah, to a point.
You do?
Yeah. Him and Lennox
Lewis. He's certainly beat everybody. And in the later part of his career, he had very bad hands.
I mean,
You
he was
know,
never undisputed. He was never undisputed champion. He was unified. He won all the belts, but he was the
right.
WBO belt holder as well. So he has held all four belts, but not together. So he was never undisputed. So he had all the four belts in the super middleweight division. Then he went up
And
to light heavyweight. Yeah,
he beat all the good
Mikhail,
guys.
Mikhail Kessler, but he never fought Andre Ward. He retired about 3 years before Ward came into his prime. So when he obviously went to light heavyweight, he picked off Bernard Hopkins to win the light heavyweight Ring Magazine. Then he also beat Roy Jones as well. So he had a couple of fights, and he was Ring Magazine in two weight divisions. But when I think of him, I
Right.
don't really think of his light heavyweight tenure. Do you? I mean, I don't really include that because that was the end of his
Mhm.
career, you know.
Well,
And he beat
like I said, you know, towards the end of his career, his hands were shot,
but they
so he
were,
wasn't punching. Yeah.
but Roy Jones was completely shot by the time he fought him, and Bernard was still, you know, before he won all his world titles back, you know. So
Well, Bernard was still good. You know, you can't take it away from Joe. He beat everybody.
plus in those
You
two
know,
fights, he was knocked down in the first round in both fights.
right? And he got up
So
and he won.
he retired at the right time. If he carried on, he would have come and stuck at some point. But obviously, all his success, all the majority of success came in the last like 4 years of his career. Before that, he was WBO super middleweight champion. He beat Chris Eubank Jr. He made about 14 defenses of the title, you know. And Marcus Bayer, do you remember Marcus Bayer, who had the three
Yes,
belts?
I do. Marty
He
Barrett. Yeah, I remember.
he refused to fight Kawasaki because he knows Kawasaki would have destroyed him. That's why he kept him away from him.
Yep, that was smart.
Yeah. But his best win on paper, I'd say, was the Mikhail Kessler win. On paper,
Yeah,
that was his biggest win.
he shocked them, didn't he?
Yeah, he beat him quite comfortably, you know.
No, a lot of people thought Kessler was going to win.
But I knew he wouldn't. I knew Joe would pull it off back then because he, you know, he's such a good fighter.
Yep, for sure.
Kessler continued on another 4 years, you know, won a few more world titles, but he didn't. He was never the same after fighting Kawasaki, you know.
Never.
And if he'd fought Carl Froch, he would have destroyed Carl Froch. He would have taken him apart, you know, and won it comfortably.
Yeah,
I
I believe so.
I don't think he would have beaten Andre Ward. That's one of the few guys I think he wouldn't have beaten.
Well, you know, you said the right thing. He retired at the right time. In fact, I think he wanted to retire even earlier. You know, he didn't want to fight his last two fights, but he did it for his father.
And he had a lot more. He earned good money from that. You know, he earned millions for that. You know, those fights. So it was
That's true. Yeah, it was
right.
true.
Let's talk about our final thing. I'm going to talk about a man who died 10 years ago. He was a great middleweight and welterweight. We're going to talk about Emil Griffith. He was a WBC, WBA middleweight, WBC, NYSAC welterweight, Ring Magazine champion at welterweight and middleweight. Do you remember the old NSAC title? Because I don't remember that.
I vaguely remember it, yeah. But I don't know if I ever told you this, but I met him, Emil Griffin,
really?
and I met Antifermo at an event. There's a guy here, Tony Danza, who was on a show.
I
And
remember
he was
him,
a
yeah.
boxer at Madison Square Garden. So I went to Madison Square Garden. A friend of mine had passes for it. And there were a lot of celebrities there. And I met Vito and I met Emil. And I was surprised,
What year was this?
I think
What
it was
year was
19, I'm thinking, let me think. I think it was 79 or 80, somewhere around there.
Okay. So he retired in what, I don't know, 60, 70 or something. But Emil Griffith, his biggest wins were against Dick Tiger, who was a very well-known Nigerian middleweight. Then he beat.
I remember that. Yeah.
Then he had 3 fights with Eddie Kid Perret, and then in the 3rd fight, he ended up killing Eddie Kid Perret, obviously, which was a tragedy, you know.
Yes.
And there's a scene from a YouTube video where Emil Griffith, because obviously he was openly gay, weren't he? Emil Griffith.
No, he wasn't openly gay, but he was gay.
And I remember he had a few kids, I remember he went to Eddie Kid Perret's grave, and then Eddie Kid Perret's son went to the grave and he started hugging him and said, "Are you the kid?" And he hugged him, and it was so heartbreaking. And Emil Griffith, Perret's son, said, "I forgive you for what you did." He said, "Don't worry about it. It's boxing. Here's what it is, you know." And he hugged him and he cried and he said,
Well,
Emil Griffith said, you know.
yeah, I saw the documentary, and the thing about it was Perret already had brain damage when he went into that fight. And the referee should have stopped it. There were like 16 punches more than where should have been stopped. But he
I
had
remember seeing
already had a brain bleed from the previous fight that he was in. And also, I remember him losing the title to Nino Benvenuti, the middleweight
Yeah.
title. He lost it to him. And
Well,
then that was Monsoon's era after that.
yeah, he did have a very successful career. And obviously, he started in what 50? I think it was what 58. He started or 56.
Right.
He started this. You know, it was a very different time. You had the NSAC title, then you had the WBC. No, obviously the old belts are very different back then. You know,
Yeah.
and the WBA, the NBA became the WBA or whatever.
You know, it was so hard on him with that accidentally killing Perret, you know, because it was televised and it was
I
all over
remember
the
seeing,
newspapers. And I remember as a kid reading about that. And
really,
really, it was Perret's manager who sold him out. He knew
really.
he was not well. Yeah, he knew about it. And so, but he sold him out, and that was it. And he never went to the funeral, never took any responsibility for it. He just sold Perret out, and Perret was a good fighter.
What's a shame? What's a shame about Perret is that his son obviously is still alive. Thank God. And his wife, I remember hearing his wife talk about 10 years ago. I think she's since passed. But this video of Perret and Griffiths with the son, this has got to be about 16, 17 years ago.
Yeah. Well, the wife never met with Griffith. She
I
didn't
mean,
want to ever.
do you blame her?
No, it brings
You know,
back too many bad memories. You know.
but those old time fighters like Emil Griffith, there are not many of those guys left. I think there might be
No.
one or two guys left, right, from that era.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Gil Clancy was training those guys, and then later on he trained Jerry Cooney and whatnot, and a bunch of different champions. And he was training him, for a while, and he did really well.
From that era of guys from the 60s, do we have any former world champions left, really? I mean, I know Larry Holmes is still about from the 70s, but that's more like a little bit later on in the early 70s. I don't. Is Ernie Shavers still alive?
I don't know if Jake LaMotta is still alive or not.
No, he's dead. He died about 10 years ago. I think Ernie Shavers is dead as well.
Yeah, he is.
He's dead. And there was Ken Norton's dead as well. He died about 10 years ago. All those guys of that era are all gone.
See, a lot of those guys from back then, they developed dementia and died early.
Yeah. I mean,
like.
I know
Chuvalo's not around anymore. A lot of those guys are not around anymore. I'd have to really research that because they have to be. A lot of them have to be in their 80s and 90s now.
Some of them are still around, but obviously Joe Lewis, he was a guy that died at like 61. He had a bad heart and stuff, and he died penniless. He died in 82. So obviously, he was born in 1918. You know what I mean? So wouldn't it be amazing to see somebody like a Muhammad Ali still alive? Because Ali would be about your age, right? I believe, if he was alive.
He'd be about 80 now.
Yeah. So some of those guys are still left. I think there's still one or two. I mean, Jake LaMotta made it to 88.
I'd have to look it up. I don't know. To be honest, Jerry Cooney is still around, but he's the 80s.
Yeah, he's still around. And then you've got people like, what's his name? Sugar Ray Robinson. He died in 89. He was gone way too young. He was only like 61 or something.
Well, like I said, they sustained a lot of head trauma. But I
And
don't
then
want
you
to
had,
dwell on it too much. We could look it up and see who's around. I'm not sure who's around right now.
there's nobody around really. But with the way the belts were, the NSAC was the New York State Championship or something, which was their version of a world title. Then that
Yeah,
disappeared in like 61. That disappeared because that's the
something like
title.
that. Yeah.
That's the
Well, don't
title, I
forget
believe. Rocky.
there was a lot of mafia involvement. They probably disbanded it.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, it's the old titles. Like then you had the NBA, which became the WBA. I don't know what the belts looked like back then. Really, I know you had the Ring Magazine belt when Joe Louis was champion, and that was, I
Right.
believe, the only belt, right? The Ring Magazine back then. I'm not sure.
No, I think they had a different organization. The WBA has been around a lot because
Since
Ali
1922.
had the WBA, yeah,
Yeah,
title.
1922. When it was, then
Yeah,
they changed the name to WBA in 1962, I believe.
right. But there is a history. I can't recall the exact history, but I know
Yeah.
there was that New York title too. So,
I know
yeah,
that Jack Dempsey, not Jack Dempsey, Gene Tunney or someone like that, probably would have had the NBA because that's around the time he stopped fighting. I think it was about 26 or something,
something
1926.
like
I'm
that.
not really sure. Not really sure.
Right.
My history is not as good as it used to be. Right? We will pack up there anyway. We're finished.
Anyway, thank you, Nathan.
We'll be back next week anyway.
I hope so. All
Right,
right,
take it
brother.
easy. Bye bye.
I'll talk to you later. Bye.
See you later. Bye.